Melanie Curtis.
Pamela Gold, sorting out audio, technical genius, this team right here.
We've got so much vast skill in so many areas. It's just humbling.
I'm so all about
Happy Monday.
Yay. Life
Yay.
is good. Happiness. I love you. I
Good
love
stuff.
these conversations. I
Same.
hope that the people who come and listen and watch our stuff get so much out of it.
Yeah.
Anytime you guys have thoughts or feedback, seriously, email us, Pam@goldevolution.com or Mel@melaniecurtis.com. Like, really keep the conversation going. And if you have more questions that you'd like us to address, we would love to hear that. So I just want to say that because we always say it at the end. I'm like, I really want people to know that they are welcome and encouraged to reach out to both of us.
Yeah. And we try to pick topics that are like super relevant in our own lives that like we're working on.
Absolutely.
So it's like and on that note today.
Yes. I wrote down some notes for this one.
Me too. This is like, well, so today we're talking about giving and receiving feedback, which is a science and an art form, right? So, to share some of the science and the art behind it, as it's something that we're constantly trying to get better at ourselves, because it's an art form. You get to higher and higher levels of mastery. It's not.
Well, it's always different. It's always different because giving and receiving feedback implies a human interaction. It implies us talking to a person, engaging ourselves, and being like seeing ourselves in the mirror of another person. And it's always different. Like literally no scenario ever is the same. And so that's where I think that art form part of it comes in, is that we have to it's not we have to, but there's a skill set, I think, to navigate the unknown, which every human interaction effectively embodies, which I think is what makes it so cool and fun.
Yeah. And there's no such thing as perfect.
And just that any human interaction, I feel like, is this exciting endeavor. And anyway, I just love that about talking about skills that help us more enjoy that experience. So giving and receiving feedback, it's like, okay, cool. How can I not be triggered by receiving maybe a negative piece of feedback? And how can I offer advice or feedback to someone I care about without triggering them or whatever?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, there's no such thing as perfect. So as we navigate all this, each time we do it, there's an opportunity to learn, become more skillful, because it really is an art, because it's about our ability to kind of show up and then use these communication skills while we're kind of navigating our inner strength. Because like you said, so much of this is about not getting triggered. Because when we get triggered, we end up kind of closing our mind, heart, being overly sensitive or shutting down, and we're not going to be able to make the most of the interaction. And it happens in both directions, both giving feedback and receiving feedback.
Yeah. It's funny for myself. I feel like, because I talk about fear a lot with my peeps and how to navigate that, the trigger of fear in us. And it's funny, like, it's really normal to fear the emotional response that you might have to feedback, right? To like constructive criticism or something like that. Like, you might totally be able to say, you know what, yeah, they're totally on point, but there's something that tends to come up in people that is like, and I definitely experience this. It's unconscious because I definitely want feedback and I want to learn. And I equally at the same time fear feedback, not because of the feedback itself, because once I'm conscious, I can take feedback and either accept it or reject it based on my own sense of self and values and whatnot, and what I'm trying to do and what I know of myself. But it's this fascinating thing of being like almost putting feedback at an arm's length, just because we fear the emotional response we might have to hearing something like that.
Yeah, the discomfort. Absolutely. The discomfort. It's the whole, I'm not good enough, whether it's how conscious or subconscious, we all have it in there on some level.
Yeah.
Not so much of like, the inner work that I focus on, is like, how do you keep rooting that out so you have less and less of that, so you do have less and less of that emotional response, and acknowledge that it's pretty much always going to be there on some level.
Right.
So how do you get comfortable being uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the art form of all of this. And it happens not just receiving but also giving, because most of us have this like, oh gosh, I have to give this person
Right.
this constructive feedback, and like there's that kind of discomfort around how they're going to take it, that you're saying something that could make them feel
Right.
not good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really on both sides of the giving and receiving that we have to navigate that discomfort and
Absolutely.
stay shored up and centered and clear and kind of effective and on point as we do that.
Yeah. It's funny. One of the things I wrote down speaking to that is like, how do we do that? I first and foremost, I love your consistent and the love and respect, like always having the love and respect of other human beings and of ourselves, that the communication has that baseline tone,
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
that baseline delivery, no matter what the content is, that the tonality, the intention is positive and loving, and the tone that we engage in the communication with is respectful. That's huge. That's one. And the other thing I thought of in terms of a tip is the asking permission, and
Getting the
ask
buy-in.
and
Yeah.
yeah, just and really asking and genuinely meaning it. Like if they don't want the feedback, they can tell you that as well. If you say to someone like, I had a thought, or I noticed something, like, would you want any feedback from me? No worries if you don't. Like really, you have to mean it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they say, you know what, I really just don't want
Can't
to,
right now, or I
I
can't
just
right now.
can't.
You know, it's the timing, right? Yeah. I mean, I think you just hit two super important things kind of on the
Mhm.
head. I'd start with before those two, I would start with kind of, if we're talking about giving feedback, right? I would start with first, like being aware that you're about to do that.
Yeah.
So many people like just like blurt something out, right? Like you said, getting the buy-in, but like that first, before you even start with, okay, I'm gonna do this, right? Or think about like, am I gonna do this?
Yes.
So that awareness, and then thinking about who is the person on the other side. Is this like a neighbor that you barely know? Is this like your, primary love partner, like where
Yep.
you hopefully have deep intimacy? But that awareness of, who is this person? What is my relationship with this person? And being
Absolutely.
mindful about how that impacts kind of the appropriateness, the timing, the delivery. Because again, it's an art form. And obviously you would handle it very, very differently, hopefully, if it's your neighbor than you would with, in my case, my husband. And so often what happens with humans is that we don't necessarily have that mindfulness and that skillfulness around it. Like I think most of us at some point in our life realize that the people closest to us, we tend to be the harshest with oftentimes. So,
Yeah.
so that kind of, that starting piece of the awareness, and then thinking about who the relationship, what the relationship with the person is, who is this person? And then what you said next about respect, not just that you feel the respect, that you show the respect, because you really actually need to show that you respect and appreciate the fact that they're hopefully going to engage in this conversation with you. Because like you
Absolutely.
said, they may not choose to, right? They may not want to. So we need to be appreciative of the fact that this person cares about us enough to actually engage with us on
Yes.
this, because that is
Absolutely.
not a given. There's going to be people who are like, F you, I don't even want to talk to you about this. Okay.
Correct.
So we want to actually be mindfully appreciative, show the respect and the appreciation. And then what you said next about getting the buy-in, about, can we have this conversation? Are you up for this now? And getting that out there first, showing that you respect them, appreciate them, care about them,
Hmm.
get their buy-in, that is this a good time? There's something important I wanted to talk to you about. Because a lot of times it's something that we actually need to say. So sometimes like we need to say it, even if they don't want to hear it, even if it's not the best time, it's something that we actually need to say. So we need to figure out how to do it in a way that they will hear us and engage with us on it.
Yeah.
So that buy-in of like, first, showing, always start with like 2 or 3 genuinely positive things, right? Showing the respect, showing the appreciation, and then
Hmm.
say, hey, I've got this issue. Is this something that I can get your help on? And hopefully this person will be like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, you just said genuinely nice things to them. So hopefully they're feeling cared for, connected.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, yeah, totally.
I
And
think
that's
that takes,
such,
yeah, it's a big deal because I think when we also, it's, I think very common that when we think about or want to give feedback in the scenario where we have an issue, as it were, quote unquote, that in effect is us in a somewhat potentially triggered state. So what I think happens is people don't say anything, or they don't necessarily think about all the things that you just said in terms of an avenue to this communication that feels potentially scary or disconnecting or conflict inducing. Like that whole thing. My internet is unstable. We good?
I see you. I see you, Melanie Curtis.
Avatar, one of my favorite movies. But so people, I think, end up triggered or feeling triggered because they aren't aware or haven't consciously thought that, yeah, there is a positive, respectful, achievable way to bring up potentially conflict inducing, triggering things while navigating their own fear, their own
Vulnerability. Yeah.
trigger, and their own emotional situation. So this is not necessarily easy stuff in terms of emotional charge. It's just that that's totally okay. And there are things we can start to practice. And that's the thing. Even if you want to not bring up the conflict topic, you can start by communicating the love and respect. Practice saying that shit out loud to your people,
Mm-hmm.
and then and believe it. Obviously you have to mean it. It's not
Yeah,
just
it has to be genuine. It can't blow smoke. You
it
can't.
has to be real. So practice saying it. People likely will appreciate that you shared that, and you'll get more comfortable sharing that. And then you can move forward and add on to other things, like add on the more scary communication at other times. Unless it's really necessary to bring up right then we can go for it and hope for the best and not
Yeah.
hold ourselves to a perfect standard.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's if I told you about Lisa Nichols, she's awesome. If you don't know Lisa Nichols, she is just awesome. She uses this
Maybe.
term carefrontation instead of confrontation. That
Nice.
you have this carefrontation with the person
I like it.
that because you kind of have a mess that you need to clean up, and you want to clean it up together, right? You need to clean it up together. Anything that comes up in a relationship, you need to do it together. You can't just have one person trying to keep the relationship afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And so she uses this kind of carefrontation, got matrix guideline, whatever, where you're actually staying in this place of caring the
Yeah.
whole time. Like that's the key. Like you said, the respect, the caring. And what happens is when we, like you said, get triggered, that's where we kind of have the rubber meet the road. Like, can I stay in a place of caring throughout this entire conversation? And that's my jam, right? Like that's where I love, I can talk about that kind of stuff for days,
Yeah.
weeks, months, years, because that's like the inner strength. Like, how do you stay in a place of compassion and caring while you're having these like tough conversations, when you feel like your heart is starting to close and like the rage is starting to bubble, like the
Yep.
resentment, the judgment? And I've got a million tricks for that kind of thing, but that's where we're going, right? That's the goal.
That's
And
the
it's,
skill set.
yeah, that's the skill set. And it's great. And the other thing to remember as you're doing this is that you want to keep it as positive as possible. Like, this is good. Like, this is great. We're going to make things so much better. Have it be this happy, exciting, positive thing,
Yes.
instead of this like negative thing, like, oh, this happened. Like, no, look, this happened and this is great because it's an opportunity for us to make things
Yep.
better. And to have it
Absolutely.
have this super positive, exciting, charge to it, because that's going to get the other person on the other side. Oh, okay. There's some good in this, and it like
Yes.
eases the discomfort of the reality of whatever the constructive, I'm not good enough piece of it is. That like,
Yes.
no, but it's cool because I'm not good enough either, and it's all good, and now we're going to get better together. And like
Mm-hmm.
having that means a silly kind of way to say it, but like whatever the major issue is, but to keep that positivity through the whole conversation. So staying compassionate and positive. And
Yes.
again, that's a skill set. And it's like, all right,
Absolutely.
practice this and see how hard it is. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, all right, well, what would have to happen for me to get better, more skillful at staying caring and positive
Yep.
through this conversation? And that's when it gets really good.
It's huge. And that's the thing that I put on that and add to that and echo. I echo everything that you said, 100%, everything. What I wrote down in terms of like how I would say it is like, how do we stay positive the whole time? Well, we genuinely cultivate a mindset of like, this is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Growth,
Yeah.
real conversation, addressing things that are real is so good.
It's so good.
And so thankful that we have people in our lives in terms of receiving feedback and being given critical feedback. Like, I definitely feel triggered when people try to give me, critical feedback, only because I am instantly, defense can easily come up and be like, oh, but I was trying to do like this. I was trying to make it this and that, and like wanting to make the positive intent very clear. But that's not what a person is
It's not
saying
the
when they're
point. Yeah.
giving us feedback. It's such a loving gesture when our people give us feedback that is meant to make us better. Whether we take it or not doesn't matter. The fact that they have the courage and are willing to risk disconnection with us by giving us this critical feedback, that's such a huge thing. So for me, like, in order to manage my triggering and manage myself from going into that fearful, disconnected, defensive like state, that's the mindset I take into those interactions, is that, and I prepare myself because I don't know when the next bit of feedback is going to come my way. So I practice regularly to remember that when that happens, I am going to be grateful for that. You know what I mean? So that I can be open to feedback and grow from having the people that love me help me see into my own blind spots. I am so thankful for that. And I recognize that a place I'm growing is in that triggered moment of fear as soon as you hear it. So like the next time it happens to me and I feel it, I'll be like, no, this is awesome. Going back to your point of positivity, like, oh, this is actually fucking awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. Tell
And
me more. I'm listening.
yeah. And oftentimes the people giving us the feedback aren't necessarily going to be the most skillful about it. Right. And
Totally. Who
so,
is?
and,
I mean, it's tough.
and and we have to kind of take, everything as positively as possible. And it's the perfect segue to kind of receiving feedback and like, what are the tricks to really receive feedback? That gratitude is one. Me, I'm all about gratitude and the power that gratitude gives us, and obviously staying open, and if you can take notes, like literally, I know this sounds so cheesy and silly, but if someone takes the time to give you
Yeah.
feedback, to say, oh, you know what, hold on. Like, even if you don't have a pen, paper, like, I want to get a pen and paper. Do you have a pen I can borrow? This is important to me. I want to honor what you're taking the time to tell me,
Love it.
and really get it down. And there's something about writing too, that kind of gets us out of the more triggered kind of lower part of our brain into the higher, more kind of, advanced cognitive, centered part of our brain, where we can really take it down. And then one of the best tips when you're giving feedback that I can tell you is when it sounds like they're done, you can be like, is there any more? Is there anything else that like you could think of to tell me?
Yeah.
Like to show that openness,
Mm-hmm.
even if on the inside you feel like you're going to vomit, like literally, like, because feelings are feelings.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that this is going to feel good at
Mm-hmm.
any point, but we have our feelings and then we have our behavior.
Absolutely.
Feelings are feelings.
This is what I did my Facebook Live on, is this idea that we will feel the fear. You will feel it. And the part of the skill set is to choose your behavior, to do anyway. So
Yep.
in the face of feeling triggered and rejected or abandoned or whatever, then you can say, no, I appreciate this communication. Period.
Yeah.
Fucking period.
Yeah.
And you can engage it just as you're saying. I love it, Pam. Love
Yeah.
it.
And keep breathing. Don't forget to breathe, because the
Exactly.
breathing, again,
That's
just
what I
keep
writ
your
down
breathing
too.
centered.
I
I mean,
wrote
it's
down
like
pause.
breathe, like take notes. And then when you think they're done, try to remember to always ask, is there anything else? Like while we're having this really awesome conversation, right? Like, but mean it, like mean it, even on the inside, again, you may feel like you're going to vomit,
Yep.
but while we're having this, is there anything else that you want to tell me? Like anything else that you can think of that would
Mm-hmm.
make things better for you?
Yep.
Because again, it's like showing that respect if you're on the receiving end or the giving. And we also should talk about receiving positive feedback too, because that's
Yes.
another really important skill set that a lot of us kind of shank, because we're like, oh no, it's nothing. Oh no, that wasn't, that was,
Right.
and we don't really honor what they're telling us and really hear it, which
Yes.
is so important, because it's really invalidating if someone gives us a positive, piece of feedback, and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it was nothing, or oh no, that was not, no, that wasn't even me. Like, just thank you. Like,
Yeah.
thank you. I worked really hard on that. I'm so appreciative that you appreciated that.
Yes.
Like that's giving them that. And all of this, the goal of all of this, obviously, but to say it, the giving and the receiving feedback is to deepen our trust and respect in our relationships.
Yes.
So that's the end goal for all of this. Yes, it's to get our needs and wants met. But one of our needs and wants, hopefully, is to have this deepening of trust and respect and intimacy,
Yep.
and the power that comes with that. So
Yes.
like, remember that through all these moments, be like, trust, respect, intimacy, trust, respect, intimacy.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful and so
Yeah.
worth pushing through the discomfort on and
Absolutely.
leveling up skillfulness on.
Why do we care about having these skills? It's to fulfill our deepest core needs and wants and desires for ourselves and our loved ones, of fostering real and authentic and safe connection. It's beautiful.
Yep.
That's why I care about doing this. I
Yep.
want people to feel connected and cared for in that way. And I want to feel connected and cared for in that way. And it's like we must tap our courage to try this stuff in order to ever have that result. And
Yep.
that's what I think makes me inspired when I think about feeling the fear and doing this stuff and communicating in this type of way and sharing in this type of way and trying and being at risk of screwing up that communication, is that it's worth the risk, because the reward, and it sounds so cliche, but the reward of that deeper trust and connection and respect, mutual on all of those counts,
Mm.
is so worth it.
Yeah. And on a practical standpoint, in a workplace, if you're in an organization, think about what higher and higher levels of synergy, productivity, creativity you can have if you have these kind of relationships at work, right? Where you're really supporting each other, where there is deep trust and respect. And then it's like 1 + 1 = 8. So
Yep.
whether it's your personal life, your workplace.
Oh, Pam, you cut out.
Did I cut?
You said whether it's your
Personal
home life.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's personal life or your work life, all of this is such good stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny. This week, I'm actually going to a company to help them learn how to affect and communicate through employee reviews. Now, it's fascinating because I was in thinking about how to put this together, right? And thinking about like, well, I basically let myself have a blank slate and really consider what would be most beneficial in terms of a process such as an employee review or a team review. And it's if we talk about company culture and connection and respect and trust, that stuff, like what then elicits that? What style of conversation, what style of questions are included in that type of thing? So I designed the review for this company around their expressed values in terms of trust and connection and transparency and all of this stuff. And so it's not like a bunch of questions of rate yourself 1 to 10 on this skill set. It's much more conversational. And my intention when I go down there is to basically teach them certain conversational skills like acknowledgement and validation and curiosity and expressing of values and expressing of appreciation, and also inside of emotional charge, how to diffuse that. And then going from there and talking about, coming up with solutions that can have accountable action attached to it, but coming up with that stuff together. But the review sheet is basically questions to facilitate that open discussion, that feeling of emotional safety inside of this style of communicating. So it's anyway, and long story short, long story long, one of the things that I included was a question about what is a goal that you have in your life, you know, and really believing and putting it out there into their company culture that we definitely care about work. And we also equally believe that a balanced person having a balanced life, having energy and time and support in those other areas that are not work, totally end up serving the greater goal of the company and the team.
Totally. Vishen Lakhiani, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. I don't know if you know that book, but he's the Mind Valley guy. He has 3 questions that he always wants to ask his people, and it's very much in alignment with that. You can Google that sometime if you want to check it out. It's really good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, anything else, my darling?
No, I think this was good. You know, it's funny because I actually this week, when, you know, you and I always like the day before, what are we talking about? Right. And so there's this doctor out in UCLA, Barry Morguelan. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. But he's kind of my people in terms of this kind of inner energy stuff. And so he had a whole training that I just signed up for and went through. And he had some really good stuff on this. And that's why I was inspired to talk about it today, because it's just, you know, it's so universal. And again, it's like all areas of our life and our deepest, you know, needs as human beings, the connectedness and belonging. So this is great stuff. And as always, Melanie Curtis, humbled and grateful for your friendship and your wisdom.
Ditto.
And light and love.
Ditto. Thank you everyone for being here.
Email us too. melaniecurtis.com.
coldevolution.com.
Wherever we are. I love you, honey. Have a great day.
Love you too.
See you later.